My friends at Easy Cater are workplace catering pros, helping you find food for everything from daily employee meals to staff meetings and special events. Visit easycater.com/leaderassistant to find out more.
Hi, my name is Dawnee Frey, and today's leadership quote comes from Tom Peters. Leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders.
The Leader Assistant podcast exists to encourage and challenge assistants to become confident, game-changing leader assistants.
The Leader Assistant podcast is brought to you by Goody. If you're starting to think about holiday gifts for your team like I am, Goody is a game changer. They have amazing gifts that people will really love, including brands that give back to charitable causes. As a longtime executive assistant, I've always been nervous about holiday gifting season. But thankfully, Goody's platform lets you send one gift or hundreds at the same time without ever worrying about shipping details. Can I get an amen? With Goody, your gift recipients provide all their shipping info, and they can even swap out your gift for another option if they prefer. It's free to start gifting, and you can get a $20 credit when you sign up. Oh, and if you mention you heard about Goody from the Leader Assistant podcast, Goody will add an extra $10 credit to your account. Go to leaderassistant.com/goody to start gifting today. Hey friends, welcome to the Leader Assistant Podcast. It's your host, Jeremy Burrows, and today is episode 195. You can check out the show notes for this episode at leaderassistant.com/195, leaderassistant.com/195. And today I am excited to be speaking with Dawnee Frey. Dawnee is a Senior Executive Assistant at Blink Health. Dawnee, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I pinged a bunch of people, or actually just kind of broadly posted on LinkedIn and said, hey, does anybody want to be on the podcast? And much to my surprise and delight, there were quite a few assistants who reached out and said, hey, I'd love to be on the show. And you were one of them, Dawnee. And we've known each other for a while. You joined our Leader Assistant Zoom chats on a fairly regular basis. And you've had a few job situations that you were wrestling with. And I loved how you would show up to those calls and just ready to kind of put it out there and seek help from the community. And much like you put yourself out there and to be on the show today, takes guts and courage to do that. So props to you for doing that and being a leader and leading yourself in that way. But before we dive into your professional journey, tell us a little bit about yourself. What city do you live in? Do you have any hobbies? Do you have cats or turtles or kids or all of the above?
I live in the Seattle area. So we just started our rainy season. I have a 14-year-old son, and I have two bonus children, a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. And I have 3 American Bully dogs.
Nice. What are the dogs' names?
Spike, Hazel, and Rexy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like you have a lot of fun then around the house.
Yeah, my hobbies are my kids and my dogs. So it's always a busy house.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, so tell us a little bit about your career. How did you where did kind of you get kicked off in, just your career journey and the administrative support world and assistant world?
Yeah. While I was attending community college for my associate's degree, I was working multiple jobs. And one of them was at a bathroom remodel company. and I would call leads and set up appointments with the salespeople. And within months, that morphed into a office manager role. So I started running the office, and that kind of started my career. And I was actually laid off in the 2008 recession and found myself working at Group Health, which has been acquired by Kaiser. And I worked there on and off for about 10 years, which, nice. Yeah. And a couple of years ago, Kaiser did a mass layoff. I think it was like 119 of us laid off at the beginning of COVID. And I kind of spent a year diving into your podcast, Maggie Jacobs' book, the Elevated EA and your book, and really decided I was just going to dive in and really elevate my career from just, administrative assistant work to an EA. And I landed my first EA role supporting the entire C-suite, a CEO, a president, the CTO, VP of marketing, and VP of sales. So, yeah. And so that was a really great role and taught me a lot, but burnout was real. So I ended up finding myself at Blink Health, where I support the CTO and the VP of growth. And I am just learning tons. So it's been a really courageous couple of years, but it's been my favorite. So
great. Well, tell us like what your favorite part about being an assistant is.
I kind of equate being an assistant as my natural mothering abilities. I'm making sure my executive's okay and taken care of and predicting needs. And it's just really feeds my need to nurture people and take care of people and bridge. I think I really enjoy bridging that gap between staff and the executives, like really becoming that person who makes the executives feel more personable and available. So I really enjoy that part.
Yeah, it's awesome to connect the dots and support, and yeah, like the nurture part that you mentioned, just because it's very the assistants that I talk with, and myself included, as I'm currently still an assistant.
Yeah.
But we get up in the morning and we just really get excited about helping other people, which is definitely a unique trait for sure.
It is. It's the amount of compassion that assistants have for their executives just knows no bounds. So it's a pretty awesome job.
Yeah. Well, on the flip side, you mentioned burnout a little bit. I know you had your hands full in your last role. What's maybe one of the most challenging parts or your least favorite part about your assistant career?
Growth is painful. So I think as you're growing, especially my role grew very quickly. You're going to make mistakes. Things are going to take longer to figure out because you're figuring them out for the first time. And that can be painful and exhausting while you're trying to learn and really like come into your new role. And that can take a toll on you. And I also think I'm one of those people that really internalize my mistakes and instantly I'm like, you can never do that again. We got to fix this. So I think I can be hard on myself, and, supporting 5 execs and, takes a lot of time to get to know each one. and find out their needs. And it was just very mentally taxing. So I think the initial growth into the role is probably my least favorite. But once you find your jam, then it's game on.
Yeah, then everything changes, huh?
Yeah, you can start once you know your exec and their needs, you can really start finding your niche and how to really help them meet their goals. And that's exciting when you start seeing, your exec become successful because of the things you put in place.
Yeah. Well, speaking of goals, how do you navigate goal setting when you're not really, and we as assistants, it's hard to see ourselves as a revenue generating role or, a bottom line impact role. How do you navigate goal setting, and how do you tie what we do back to the overall goals of the organization?
Yeah. I try to align my executive strategic goals or KPIs with my own. I think I talked about Maggie Jacobs says in her book, your goal is to help your executive get to their next level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the way I try to approach it is redirecting conversations with my exec and finding out their vision, their plans, their values, and trying to get their attention so we can align, so I can do my job better. And I've just learned through you that my best asset is managing their time. So I set my goals basically, the best way I can put it is I need to make time for them to do their job successfully. So doing time studies on their calendar. I absolutely loved your Zapier.
Yeah. Calendar audit.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was the game changer for me because I could then show my executive, this is how you're allocating your time. This is where we need to adjust and shift if this is the goal you need to hit this quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really how I started setting my goals was, if I could give my exec the time that we planned and make sure he has a dedicated time to do his work to reach the goals, then we're both successful.
Yeah.
So I tried to really kind of roll up my goals into each of my execs. So I knew if they had time, then we were going to reach our goals. And that's really kind of, I'll say that's my professional goal setting, personal goal setting standard.
Right. Well, and for those listening, there's a calendar audit tool that I use with Google Calendar and Zapier. And you can check out, there's a free video course I put together with the templates on how I use that. And that's what Dawnee's referring to. But you can go to track.assistanceguide.com and you can sign up for that free video course walkthrough. And I walk through how exactly I do the calendar audit for my executive, again, using Google Calendar and Zapier, but that's track.assistanceguide.com to check that out. All right. Well, Dawnee, what about career growth? I ask when I have people on the show, I ask them, what topics would you like to discuss? And one of those you mentioned, I like how you said it, is career growth as a lattice versus a ladder, and how being an individual contributor should hold the same value as a people manager. So talk about the difference between what you meant by a lattice versus a ladder.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think growth within the organization means that you would need a title change and to start managing people, versus a lattice where you can grow within your role or laterally and still have compensation and still find areas of, you like working in. I don't necessarily want a title change because I love my position so much, but I still want to grow within my role.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, where career ladders can feel like you're waiting for somebody to like dictate how far you can go. But I think we can explore nonlinear opportunities of growth. Like, I support a CTO, so I became a certified Scrum Master and product owner. So I would understand how projects move along, in the tech space. Mm-hmm. And that's helped me a lot in my career. And it also tied in with project management, which all EAs know those projects come. So it's grown. I've grown within my role and got certified in things that may not necessarily what I do, but has helped me. And I think, high performing employees have high output, passion, and we can be individual contributors without becoming people managers. And I just think it's really important that, to express that, because I can't tell you how many times I've had my execs ask, well, would you ever want to be a manager or a supervisor? And it doesn't appeal to me. I really like being, a high performing individual contributor. But I think there's definitely ways we can explore to grow our roles within. I know I listened to a podcast where an EA became certified in editing documents, and that's a skill set that we all use. And I think there's just different ways we can be valued as individual contributors versus, people managers, and still grow and be successful within our roles.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot. I've been asked in the past, my prior role, it's like, hey, you could be a director of operations someday. And I'm like, yeah, I see what you have to put up with. I don't know if I want to do that.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with it. Some people are like, oh, you're not pushing yourself enough or whatever. It's like, no, I can grow. Like you said, you can grow laterally, you can grow in your individual contributor role. And you see that a lot in specialist roles, like even software engineers, software developers. You see that where you've got this really great software engineer and you promote them to manage a team. And then they really struggle because they're like, I just really enjoy developing and coding. I don't really enjoy the people part. And so I've seen that a lot where it's like you promote someone, you think, oh, they're our best engineer, so let's make them a manager. Well, it doesn't go well. And you have to put them back in a non-managerial position so that they can thrive with what they enjoy and what they're good at in that individual contributor role. So yeah, well said. Well, Dawnee, what's maybe one thing that, you mentioned you got into the podcast, you got into the books, and really finding the resources and finding yourself throughout that journey. What's one thing that you would encourage assistants listening with? So if you think, okay, what's one takeaway or take home tidbit from this episode that you want those listening to take away, what would that be?
Invest in yourself. I think for years, I just thought, it was up to me and my manager to figure out my career path. But I started really realizing like I'm the only one looking out for me. I have to invest in myself. And I started buying the books and going to the seminars and, paying for the webinars. And it's propelled my career in the last 2 years in ways I never thought. And I know it always feels like, oh, it's so expensive, but it's your entire career, and you're worth investing in. You're totally worth it.
Yeah, well said. Well, where's a good place for folks to find you if they want to say hi?
LinkedIn is the best way. Just search Dawnee as in Nancy Frey, and I'd be happy to connect with anybody.
Great. Well, I will definitely put that link in the show notes at leaderassistant.com/195, leaderassistant.com/195. Dawnee, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciated you sharing a little bit of your story and your insight, and taking that courageous step of reaching out and saying, hey, I'll be on the show. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Please review on Apple Podcasts. GoBulls.com